Hello and happy Champagne Friday. This is Gary here, and today we're talking about storage for champagne. It's an often contradictory and confusing subject. Many of you who've been to the region have been told by the big houses that you shouldn't store it at all, and that all of the champagne is ready to be drunk upon release. And that's one of the beautiful things about it. It is ready to be drunk upon release, and almost all of it can be enjoyed immediately. But champagne can just get some fantastic benefits from being kept for quite a long time in one's own cellar. I think one of the main reasons that the big houses and the Champenois in general tell you not to store it isn't because they don't think it will age, but it's because they don't trust your cellar. And your cellar is almost certainly not as good as theirs, since they are on some of the most easily excavatable chalk in the world, and the temperatures are just dead consistent in these cellars, which are ever so easy for them to dig out. That being said, we don't have a chalk cellar. Here at my house, in the garage, we have an insulated room with a whisper cool in it and some diamond racks. For storing champagne and for storing wine in general, I think that diamond racks or square racks like these are the very, very best things. That's because they're the most flexible. These particular bins hold 12 bottles of Bordeaux, they hold 11 bottles of Burgundy, or they hold some as yet to be determined amount of Krug. I've never had enough Krug to totally fill one, but with the wide bottoms of some of the specialty champagne bottles, they just won't fit in a single bottle rack. So in a rack like this, even though it might not hold as many bottles like this as it does a Bordeaux, at least you can fit some. CIBC actually did a study, and they said that for storing wine for up to a year, you're better off standing it up. So there's a lot of things about champagne that are different than still wine. And while I wouldn't recommend for long-term storage having the wine stand up, if you're out of space and you've got a place where that you can just stick a couple of bottles standing up for 6 months, or relatively short-term storage, I think that's fine. I mean, they've done a great study on that. So next stop is my wine locker. Let's go and check that out next. A wine locker is a really great option for the long-term storage of champagne, especially if, like me, you've got a discipline problem with vintage champagne. After all, it is delicious pretty much on release, and very, very tempting if at home to rip it out after you've maybe already gone through one or two bottles. So I really like my own little 10-case locker, even though I've got a significant amount of storage at home, for keeping vintage champagne that I'm really meaning to keep for an extended period of time. Alright, now we're talking about cabinets, and cabinets are a good time to talk about temperature and humidity, because not all of them do what they should and create a humid environment that's at least of ambient humidity like the room is. A lot of them act like refrigerators, which sucks all of the moisture out of the air. We oftentimes at home dry age our own steaks in our refrigerator. That's a terrible, terrible situation for a cork. Of course, everything that we offer here for sale has the ability to create a little bit more than ambient humidity within the unit. But if you're buying a floor model from an appliance store, it's a question that's really worth asking about the units. Almost all wine storage lockers, internal, house cellars and cabinets aim to keep the wine at around 55 degrees. That's a consensus. Some collectors like to go cooler. Some of our guys on staff that are a little older intentionally run their cellars a little bit warmer, say 57 degrees. At home we run ours at 53, but around 55 is the rule of thumb. But we come from a technology here in the Silicon Valley of technologists, and just remember that blowing cold air on the wine is a good approximation of ambient cellar temperature, but nothing beats a good deep cellar. And this is just a way to have something to store your wine that's effective. We talked about racking before when we were in my cellar at home, and this is one of the most important things to look at when you're getting a unit. This particular one for Vinotech has a whole bunch of spaces where the bottles just won't fit because they're designed for Bordeaux. A lot of the companies will make these smaller, Bordeaux or standard size Burgundy rack spaces to pad their stats, to say, hey, we were able to fit in one more row so we can fit another 30 bottles. But if some of your bottles don't fit at all, then it's not very useful. This is beautiful furniture. It does have spaces that do work for champagne over here on the other side. So, maybe that's enough. Maybe it's not, but it's a question that's worth asking when you're shopping for these things. Vinotech also makes another great model here, which is less expensive. And the thing that I like about this more utilitarian one is the racking. If you take a look in here, it's totally loose, so you can fit, even a Bordeaux Magnum into this guy. This is a pretty good way of doing it. If you were handy, you could probably even pull one of these racks out for magnums of champagne. And like we were saying before, 6 months standing up isn't an issue, so you can stand them up in here. It's also got the real industry standard unit in the Whisper Pool built into it, which I think is a great thing. One of my favorite ones that we have for sale here are the Lacaches, and these guys do great at delivery. If they stock the units, and they can deliver them pretty quickly in the Bay Area at least. Again, one of my favorite things, and I keep on harping on this, is the rack space. It easily fits a standard champagne bottle, although you're out of luck. A double-doored unit, one of these will have a lot of space on either side, which is fantastic for not only for standing up bottles of champagne and putting odd-shaped stuff like this in magnums, but also great for the storage of your wine. If you have a double-doored unit, you can select one side and one side only to ever pull wine from, and then have the other side as long-term storage, knowing that you're going to have to move the stuff from one side to the other before you drink it. This will keep those longer-term bottles from getting shuffled around as much, which will really help their longevity. Also, you can set it up in quadrants to make sure that things don't get pulled that shouldn't. My wife Cinnamon and I are both wine professionals, but we both made the mistake of drinking something that the other didn't want us to drink on a Tuesday night, just because the wine mold is too big to keep it all straight. So having them set up double-doored, one for long-term storage, one for shorter-term storage, and also having quadrants set up with your significant other so you know what is fair game on any night and what's more special occasion and what should just be hanging out for a long time is really, really a good call. Now, I hope you've enjoyed our discussion about storage, and I encourage you to lay down some champagne. It's a lot of fun.